Can you talk about how you came? I was going to do that. Can you talk about how you came to hear about the Belarus Free Theatre?
I came to hear about the BFT, the Belarus Free Theatre, because they were having a workshop at the drama academy at the drama school I was attending in Rome. So basically, they were also presenting the latest pieces of work in Rome, and so my class had the honour to work with them for 2 weeks. And I fell in love with them, basically, and fortunately the feeling was reciprocated, so I ended up working with them a year later.
Fantastic. And can you talk about Red Forest?
Yep. So Red Forest is a huge show and is based on climate change and natural disasters or human-caused disasters, and mainly is also about how human beings react to those disastrous situations. And the process of building it up has been huge. It took 5 weeks of rehearsals, and it was all about what the actors could do and how they would have dealt personally with the situations and the scenes we wanted to display. So that was really the most interesting part, actually.
Can you talk a little bit about the devising process of Red Forest?
Oh yes, the devising process of Red Forest was amazing, and hugely interesting. It was very long, first of all. It took 5 weeks of rehearsals, and it was all about the actors, the personal contributions that the actors could give to the stage, to stage the scenes we wanted to display at the end. So we knew what we were going to tell, what we wanted to tell to people and to the audience, but we had no idea how the whole thing would have been done. And so the directors wanted us, they gave us basically free time to collect people, to figure out in what way we would have loved to say those things, to tell those things. And then we tried and did it, sometimes in a very good way, sometimes in a horrible way, but this is what I think made the final result poetic and powerful in the end.
Great. What if you could talk about for a minute freedom?
Freedom. Oh, right, okay.
So that's I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. What does freedom mean to you?
Right, freedom means at the moment to be able to be happy and to do what you want at the same time. Meaning that sometimes we find ourselves doing what we want, but not being happy in doing it. And sometimes we are happy, but we're not doing what we want to do. And the ideal thing, the ideal freedom for me would be to be able to match those two things together.
Great. And what's the best thing about working with the BFT?
I think the best thing about working with the BFT is, as I said about the rehearsing process, that they really push you in order to give a personal contribution to the work. So you're never going to be able to just step back from yourself. You are always requested to put yourself on display. And it's massively useful, above all, when you don't know yourself enough, which is what happens all the time. We never pay attention enough to ourselves, I think, and to ourselves, but in an altruistic way. So how can I put myself, how can I show myself in a way that will serve the work? So it's not about being narcissistic. And this is, I think, it's not only massively helpful for an actor, but also for a human being, in general, for whatever is your job or what you're doing.
That's great. There's definitely a theme within everyone. Yeah, it's good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to contact them when I came to London. I wasn't interested in finding a job, actually. I was just interested in watching the latest work that at the time was King Lear. But I chased them because my entire class had this amazing memory of them, of working with them. It was just 2 weeks, but My classmates actually, when I told them that I was about to work with the Belarus Free Theatre, they said, "Oh, please say hi to them, and we know you're going to have huge fun." And but actually, yes, fun is true, but during those 2 weeks of workshop, there were a lot of tears also. So it's this weird mixture of things that you cry a lot, but you have fun at the same time, and you didn't like people should be depressed after 2 weeks of that. But no, we were just enthusiastic, and they were so jealous of me, which made me badly happy in a way. But no, I was so happy to be able to have the opportunity to work with them again.
What's the favourite character you've played in Red Forest?
Okay, I've got 2 scenes that I like most. Well, my favourite character is a Japanese guy. Okay, it's not based on a real character, meaning that I knew what I was about to do, but the story of the character, I know that in that scene we are facing the situation of a flood. So, and the actors have to cross the stage using books as to make a bridge on the water, and then to reach the sand, and so the safe place. So we know that these guys are just people, survivors, but we don't know anything about them. So I had to make up my own story about who my character is, and he is the one who passes the books. So basically, I just say he's the key man of this operation, because if I forget a book a night, we're going to be stuck in the water for like half an hour, and the scene won't happen. And this is my favorite scene also because as an actor, I'm not required to play. I don't have to act at all. I am doing something 100% honestly, or as honest as I can be. And that's what that's what we are taught to be the best on stage. And actually, that's what feels the best. You're not acting, you're not pretending to do anything. You're just doing something and you're trying to save your life. It's a game because we don't have to fall down, we don't have to fall in the water, which is not that high actually, it's not that deep. So nothing would happen. But the game is, don't go into the water, it's dangerous. This is what the audience need to perceive, the danger of it. And so these are the rules, and do it. You're grabbing a lot of stuff on your back, and you are awkward, but you have to deal with that situation and do it genuinely. And that's, having all that stuff to do at the same time makes me feel relaxed as a performer, and so engaged as a person, as a human being, which is the best you can achieve on stage.
So how did you come to meet the Belarus Free Theatre?
I met the Belarus Free Theatre Company in 2013, I would say July. I did a workshop at the Young Vic, and it was for 3 weeks. And I remember the poster was saying, if you're a writer or director or actor, come on board so you can kind of see how a theatre company does things. So I was kind of going as from a director's point of view, because I finished uni, I studied law actually, but before that I just made a decision to kind of pursue what I really wanted to do, which is something in the arts, directing. I had experience with acting, but I was really interested in directing. I never really had that much experience. So I did a course at the Young Vic, and then from then Sharon, I don't know if you know Sharon, she told me about working with BFT on this 3-week workshop. So I thought, okay, I'll go as a director. I just was acting. So yeah, and I was just really relaxed about the whole thing, to be honest. I probably thought that maybe it's not exactly what I'm looking for, but of course I'm going to still continue and enjoy the experience. And I really enjoyed it actually. And in that short space of time, I opened up in a lot of ways that I had never opened up before, personally and professionally, which at the time I really hated. I don't like talking about myself and opening up, and you know, I always saw like drama and performance as an escape as opposed to kind of, I don't know, finding things out about yourself and putting yourself in it, if that makes sense. So anyway, yeah, so I did this workshop with them and it went really well, and then randomly it came up to me, oh, what are you doing on this day? Nothing. okay. Then they were like, come and do this. I was like, okay. You sure? Okay. So it was kind of like that. It was kind of like we did this workshop and it was good. It was fun. And then they just asked me to do other stuff and I was up for it, of course. You know, it's just a good experience coming out of uni and just testing the waters and enjoying life and enjoying people and they're enjoying you to an extent, you know. So, yeah, basically that's how I came to know them.
Very good. Cool. And can you talk about Red Forest? A little bit. In terms of like, maybe like, what's the thing that you resonate most with, within Red Forest? Because I mean, you're like the main sort of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell you about Red Forest. Well, I think it kind of, how can I say? It was quite late in the day how I came to connect with it more, if that makes sense, because it's just in general, like the topics and the stories and the experiences. I haven't necessarily experienced those kind of things, so automatically it was quite overwhelming to, I don't want to say responsibility, it sounds so cliched. I have responsibility as an actor to, you know, but to an extent it is a big deal. Like, I'm going to talk about these people's stories, or we all are, and we have to perform it and try and be honest about things that I personally haven't experienced, but just through like trying to draw parallels with, for example, I'll say Aisha's story, with my own story or my mum's story. Like, there's a bit at the beginning and I have like a I hate the sound of my voice, but anyway, there's a pre-recorded just talking a tiny bit about my mum, and you know, I'm the youngest of 6. Aisha has 5 children. You know, just the certain journeys that my mum has had, that has helped me, because you know, directly or indirectly, whatever, you're kind of affected by the experiences of your parents. You know, so just I use that a lot to kind of connect with Aisha and trying to, I don't know, just certain things that she was going through, surviving and being lost and having responsibility of children. I just tried to kind of twist the emotion, if that makes sense, child to parent, and you know, does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely does.
So yeah, it was tough at the beginning, and it's still hard, you know, but that helped a lot. Just drawing from personal experience. I think with everything, it's all about relatability. We all go through similar human emotion, you know. So if you can kind of tap into that, then it's easier. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
Definitely did. You totally did.
Yeah.
And then just finally, what does freedom mean to you?
Freedom. Wow, what does freedom mean to me? That's a big one. I think not being afraid to truly be yourself, and not trying to please everyone, even if it means that you look, I was about to swear, but no, I'm not gonna, I held it down. But
say it. Go on.
Even if it means that you look really shit and you look like a bad person, even if you're not, because I don't believe anyone's bad or evil. I just feel that everyone has different perspectives. They've all had different journeys, you know, and just owning your stuff. So for me, for example, just really accepting my flaws. It's really hard for everyone, I'm sure, but just, it's all right to not be polished, because I'm really not polished at all, and I make bad decisions and stuff, but just being able to own that and I guess have people accept it to an extent, not so that it's destructive or detrimental to the well-being of others, etc., but just that you can just, you know, without having to think about what people think. Or that's freedom for me. That would be great if I could feel like that all the time, that I'm not, someone's looking at me or something, I'm here.
So basically, BFT, before I started working with them, wasn't anything new for me. I knew about what they are doing, I knew about the theatre, I knew about some plays, and I those guys, I mean, Nikolai and Natalia are political heroes for me. So I've been following them for a really long time while I was in Belarus still. Then I lost track for a bit when I moved to Poland. But then, absolutely accidentally, I came back to them. I found Nikolai absolutely accidentally on Facebook, and he was writing really interesting. He still has, I mean. And I was following, and I started chatting with him. And obviously, because they were in the UK already, it was a bit hard to come to the UK because of the visas and all that stuff. I was doing some exams and I had some rehearsals in the UK. I managed to get into some rehearsals with institutions of higher education, mostly all Royals ones connected with music. I wrote him that I will be for a week. I will stay in London, and if there is a possibility to meet. And it appeared that he had time, so we met. We had a talk, and that's how it started. And the next play, we were instantly working. After 2 months of conversations, we've been working on Red Forest and Falmouth.
Just quick. Wow, it's typical, kind of the BFT, not of anyone else. Great. And can you talk about what's the sort of best thing about working with the BFT?
Working with BFT is amazing. They are highly creative. It's kind of work which you can't see in any other theatre in the UK, basically. Because what happens usually is that you have a main role of a director or of a composer, if we're talking about music, who brings his ideas and starts building his own show. Here it works a bit differently. You have people work together. People can bring their ideas into the show, and usually those ideas stay there. And many people admit that it's a really great way because it's hard for the director to be a professional in every field, but we have all professionals from different fields connected, and they have their own experience. And the process of connection of this experience is what makes it unique and really wide. It widens the topic. And for me as a composer, it was absolutely amazing to work on the Red Forest because I was bringing my own ideas, my own views on how the form of the play should be structured and how to underscore it properly musically. How to underscore it properly musically. I think that's it.
What was your starting point for Red Forest?
Starting point for Red Forest was the stories that have been gathered. The guys went to different parts of the world. They've been to Chernobyl almost. They've been to India, Africa, and gathered stories of different people. And we started from reading out those stories with guests, including Tamsin Oman, Joe Core, and it was really interesting to hear their view on those issues too, which was amazingly inspiring. And when we were almost instantly sucked in to those topics, which are most of those are really hard to hear, and sometimes we were just listening and crying, and it was very hard but very amazing experience. And then we started working while being in this kind of state. We started developing how it should go, what the story would be about, and yeah.
That's cool. What does freedom mean to you?
Freedom has so many colors, let's say, and it can be about anything. And being free for me, I think, is to be free of bonds, political, economical issues. We start from those, but then we move to censorship, which is usually absolutely awful. I understand there are sometimes topics which are hard to talk, which are not allowed, and you can feel them inside that they are not, but there are sometimes things that should have been said, and people should hear about those stories, and people should know what's going on. I think it's their right, because if they don't have that information, it's really hard for them to make changes in their life, to make life decisions. And here it gets so hard and so tricky. So.
Cool. Good one. What's your favourite story in Red Forest?
My favorite story in Red Forest? Wow. The main story is absolutely amazing. I mean, the red line which goes through the whole play is the story of Aisha, of the woman who is born in Africa. She has a husband who's getting killed during the war, and she starts running to Europe. I think this story is really important and really touching, but if you are talking about local stories, because it's full of little local stories, I cry every time on Japanese scene, for sure. This is absolutely amazing, and in the play it's actually a bit different, because people run from floods and they stay somewhere high on the roof, and in the real story, in real life, they are saved, and they start living their lives again. They are born again, and they try to restore all they have, all they had. But in the play, they save a woman who is running with 2 children by sacrificing themselves, and I think that's what makes it absolutely beautiful, touching, goosebumps.
Beautiful. That's great. What made you want to become a composer?
My mom. Yeah, absolutely. My mom wanted me to be a musician, I think, at least. I mean, I started my education when I was 4, I think, musical. Yeah, absolutely. It appeared that I have absolute hearing, and various teachers were saying, yeah, push him that direction. And my mom chose the instrument for me, which was piano, king of orchestra, king of all instruments. So it was, it's really great. It really helps me now. I'm really glad I'm playing piano and I'm composing. And I moved to composing when I was, I think, 9. I had a very inspiring teacher back in school, and my classes were mostly individual, and it created something in me. I mean, it awoke my abilities of thinking, of developing. I think I'm more creative now because it was growing, and then when I caught it, and when I caught the pleasure of composing when I was 14, I think, I started composing more, and for various instruments and in various styles, starting from songs to serious classical composition, and I continue it now, but on a higher level, I think.
Can you talk about how you came across the BFT?
I came across the BFT through a training program that they were doing, which was funded by Jerwood in 2014, so the beginning of last year. And I was sort of, me and 3 others were part of a, what was it? It was a theatre maker trainee position thing. And I was kind of joining them to see how they make stuff, how they work, their unique method. And I ended up sort of just becoming part of the whole thing, so that was kind of great. So we were doing the rehearsals for the first development stages of Red Forest, and we were doing the études, which is how they make stuff, so lots of little ideas going on, and I was involved in the process as much as the other students were, and because of the accordion and the saxophone and the singing, they were like, oh, actually, you'd be quite useful in this play. Don't get relaxed, but maybe you'll be in it. So, yeah, that was kind of how it came about. And then I ended up being in the next one as well, The Price of Money. So I've ended up with them for longer than I expected, and more deeply. So, yeah. Sorry. Everything's got like subtext dripping.
It's good. It's all good. It's all really good. Can you talk about the development process, like how the BFT develops their plays?
When BFT develop a play, you start with a kind of abstract idea of what the play is going to be about. For example, money. And then you put yourself into that. So you think as many things as you possibly can about that and how you relate to that. And then we do études, so little studies just constantly for weeks of any ideas that anybody has. And it's all very frantic and inspiring in that sense, because everybody's throwing each other in, oh, I need you in a thing, or can you dance? Can you be in my thing? Or can you sing here? And it's a very eclectic and very active way of making stuff, because it becomes everybody's ideas just get thrown in, and you don't get precious about your ideas if they don't work or whatever. So that's very creative, yeah. And then somehow it gets sort of filtered through a director's brain and woven into some sort of piece. I mean, that's how Price of Money and Red Forest have worked. And I know they do études, but obviously with scripted plays, I think there is a bit more of a different thing going on in that sense. We had Plutus in Price of Money, which was a script, but yeah, very a patchworky approach.
Cool.
Quite rambling.
It's good, it's all good. Can you pick one of your favourite sort of stories in Price of Money?
Stories, what is in material from...
that ended up in the play, like things that you felt like resonated particularly. Or maybe even if you could talk about your story in Price of Money.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, awesome.
So in Price of Money, my sort of contribution to the final thing, specifically, my story it came out of the idea of people and their relationship to art, and that in terms of money. So it kind of ended up embodying itself in, my voice being the thing that makes my money. She growls, and how it can be what it is to be inside the very thing that like funds you, if you see what I mean. So, and how you're kind of living in this value, I guess. So I think it's been an interesting process, actually. It's an interesting concept. It really resonated with me, the concept of art and money. Me being the art was more of a director's choice. I wouldn't have made that choice myself, but it's an interesting thing. So I think, but it is very specifically about, obviously with singing, you have to look after yourself. You have to keep control of that, and you can't break your voice if you need it, of course. So in that sense, being a human being inside that is quite an interesting idea.
Cool. And what does freedom mean to you?
Freedom to me, freedom means that you can make spontaneous choices and go with them. So I'm very impulsive. I feel very free. I'm very lucky. I'm a very free person because of my circumstances, and then the brain that's come with that because of that. So I'm dangerously free. My impulsive drive is great, but it means that I'll make a choice, and the next day I'll be starting to put that into action. okay, right, I'm moving now then. I'm moving house tomorrow, fine. So it's great, but I think, yeah, that is freedom, and I'm very lucky to have that, I think. Yeah.
Good one. And then, when did you start playing? When did music come into your life?
Music came into my life, I don't know, from the beginning, as everyone always says in response to that question. If they're a musician, I remember twiddling on the piano when I was a kid, and mum and dad being like, "Oh, let's get her some piano lessons." And then obviously in English education you have everybody learns a recorder, and then you kind of pick an instrument if your school is pushing that at the curriculum at the time or whatever. So I ended up choosing saxophone because, when I was really young actually, because it was the one that no one else played. Typical. There we are. And then, I don't know, I feel singing came much later actually, like proper singing. Training singing didn't come till I started uni, because I went to uni with instruments, and then, I don't know, like the technique of instruments is a very different experience to the technique of singing. Singing feels very natural, and the technique all just seems to make a lot of sense, whereas technique for other instruments is much more, I don't know how to explain it, it's much more, you have to do the things and you work through the scales and stuff, whereas with singing it's much more instinctive. For me, luckily, whatever, but so that's been really amazing to be able to sort of live that. So, but I mean, music's always been in my life, but I think singing particularly is something that I feel is really real. Like, I feel like it's right from inside.
Can you talk a little bit about Belarus?
Yes. So I visited Belarus as part of my own way of claiming my experience with BFT for myself, because they come here and we dip into their culture here, and I really wanted to see why they are who they are, maybe, or try and understand a bit more. So it was really interesting. It was fun. We arrived there. I was with my boyfriend, and we had hitchhiked from London, and we arrived there, and immediately off the train were met by Sveta and Pasha, and they were like, "Right, you're coming to the forest." Like, oh, good. And we kind of went there, and they had built like a sauna, and we all, I don't know, we were all living in the forest, and yeah, it was amazing to see them in their home, actually, because it's such a big part of this whole company is the kind of the fact that they can't be at home, and how fond they are of their home. And yeah, I like going to see Andrei in his house, and going to the bars that they like, and in Minsk, and I don't know, it just felt very special to be able to see that side of it and put it a bit more into reality. It's a funny place, like, I think, yeah, it was good. I'm glad. I feel like it's tied things up a bit in terms of BFT and me.
Yeah. Could you tell that it was the sort of dictatorship angle? Were there any signs of that for you as an English person?
Being in Belarus as an English person, you see things, well, for example, there are signs "I love Belarus" everywhere that are funded by, there's no, like, I don't know, it doesn't say Coca-Cola at the bottom. They just seem to be funded by the government, I guess. Like, we stayed in Grodno on the way to Minsk, which is a town in the west, and there was just this vast building there was like a tank at one side, and there's a huge building in the middle of the main square, and it just had this "Ya lublю тебя, Belarus" poster, which is "I love Belarus." Like, really very, very big. I don't even know how to give you a size, but and then throughout Minsk it's just full of this. And I think also the other thing I really noticed was that there doesn't feel like there's a lot of rebellion commonly. I thought it was very interesting. We were in the supermarket, and Nadia, we were shopping for something, and she started chatting to this girl that looked kind of cool. Kind of had tattoos and some cool hair, and she told her about BFT. And she hadn't heard of BFT, but because they can't like advertise in any conventional sense, it's often by word of mouth, and it's just funny to be able to really trust, because she was genuinely interested, to be able to just pick someone and be like, "You look cool," because everybody does. There is a real sense that everybody kind of, there is a uniform. I think the thing I felt, I mean, this is just my perception, and we weren't there for very long, so I can only speak a tiny thing. But from what I saw, it felt very much like conformity is something that seems to be quite within the blood of the people, not BFT, obviously, and how I can see that that's kind of interesting, and surely this is extreme, but maybe the ultimate dictator's dream would be to have everybody, not fighting. And I think I remember that Nastia, an old member of the theatre, she said just people didn't seem to mind quite a lot, quite commonly, and I think that was the thing I found it seemed prominent to me.
I think freedom to me is about recognizing or deciding that I have choices outside the choices that you feel are given to you. That you can, that your choice is not to walk the other direction, that actually you can go here where no one has offered anything. I think that's the sort of limitlessness of options, of course, which is kind of, but feeling like you can move outside this grid that we sort of exist in, that you feel like you only have so many choices, that there's this sort of list of priorities or list of things that you can consider, and all of these other things don't matter. And I think freedom is about being able to slough off this list of priorities and neglecting them, I think.
Cool. Can you do freedom in 3 words?
Oh, God.
I'm just going to refocus the 2, so.
Oh, that's really hard. Freedom, okay, is doubt, chance, and choice.
Cool. Back of the net. Cool. Can you talk a little bit about working with the BFT? I mean, you've talked a bit about it, but just
in
anything.
general.
Yeah.
So working with BFT is, it's a pretty all-in kind of experience, which I love, which is, and I think over the years it just has kind of grown and sort of exploded in a way that it's kind of something that you kind of miss, I think, when you're working, let's say I've been in Northern Europe for 14 years now, that you can really miss, there's just a roughness and a kind of a recklessness that exists in the company that I sort of feel like I have as well, and I think we really meet on that level that I love, because I miss in sort of very civilized Europe. And I think it's just amazing to watch them work, because I think they really, there's just so much passion for what they do, and I think it's something it's kind of easy to stand behind them and feel like, even if there are choices that you disagree with, like aesthetic choices or content choices, things that you don't love, you're still sort of working towards some kind of common goal where you kind of can stand behind and sort of makes you think about things differently or invest yourself differently, which I think is really important. I think things can be very polished and very well crafted in the North. We've got all the luxury of being highly educated and spending time doing a master's in performing arts and all of this. But it ends up going into a vacuum sometimes, because it's so insular. Everything is so civilized and controlled, And then sometimes you wonder why you do it, actually. So I think when you're in this environment where it's just so, like, full on, you kind of think, okay, yeah, kind of maybe for this a little bit, and like, you know, and it's, and I think it's just it's very confronting and it's very revealing, just about like working with a company that comes from such a different background, just in terms of personal philosophy. Like we have like real like major clashes and like conflicts, and it's like, it's kind of beautiful, you know, because it's real or something.